Also, Kangala Tashideles, no.
Good morning, everybody.
Yeah.
Shantideva.
Sanje, Chodan,
Tsering
Sojo,
soki chonam la janju pada dani gapsu chi dagi choni be chokam gi jolam lanje sange jopasho.
Sanje, Chodan,
Sange chorang soki chonam la janju
Sanjo
pada
Bado,
dani dani gapsu chi
Saje,
dagi
Chinin,
chonin gi be chokam gi
Tonanje,
jolam
Gola
lanje
Benda,
sange
Sanje,
jopasho.
Sanje, Chodan,
Sange chorang soki chonam la janju
Janjo
pada
Bado, Tane, Jaso,
dani gapsu
Saje,
chi dagi
Chinin,
chonin gi be chokam gi jolam
Jola
lanje
Benda, Sanje,
sange
Robara,
jopasho.
Ayata, Gade,
Aragate
Gade,
parasam gate
Bodhisattva.
bodhi swaha.
Ayata,
Ayata gate
Para
paragate parasam gate bodhi swaha.
Ayata,
Ayata gate
Para
paragate parasam gate
Bodhi
bodhi
so.
swaha.
Ola so, Semja Tamjega to the Topja Lana Macheva. Sanje, Kombaran Boja Chineja Tobacha. Teacher the Enemy Janjo Sembe Labjana Tushi the Nyamsulang, Lawala Shingo, Shibara Tugo, Tuja Mano Wachikodi. And Kapsu Papa de Kasura, Geshe Shiwala, Junju, and the Tesha Timbini in some chat.
And we set our motivation to do whatever we possibly can to attain the peerless state of enlightenment in order to benefit all living beings. To attain that state, we know we have to perfect all the trainings on the Bodhisattva path. To perfect those trainings, we need to have a very good understanding of what they are about. And we have this chance this morning to listen to an unmistaken text, an unmistaken presentation of those in the form of the Bodhisattva's way of life, and to hear a little regarding the meaning behind this great text.
What that Namju Nation Chechen and the Rangi Tungi Nangala, Lama Tube set up.
And as we normally do, also, we set up the merit field in the form of the Guru Munindra Shakyamuni Buddha in the space in front of us.
Gorangi Tinja Lama Imba, number Toba Shajatuba, and the Sheche Chanya, yes, and a Yunyam Shakatan, Tuzaku, Hosanaba, Kula Chugu, Momega Tujosa, and the what in the Vegan Shecha, but Mosubakura Rangi Tungi Nangali, some such.
This figure is, in fact, our own root guru in the form of Shakyamuni Buddha, with one face and two hands, holding an alms bowl filled with nectar, dressed in the saffron robes of a monk, and in this filled with clear light. And we really feel that this figure is really, this Buddha is really there, really actually present for us.
Rangi Tagoda, Rangi, and it's City Pamane Chebe, City Pama, then Tsengama, Dingama, Toma Mabana, and Digi Jambe, Dinja Making a Simja, and Dory took a Simja Tam, Masa Meva, you, some such.
And then all around us are, beginning with the parents of this life. We visualize them, then the parents of the life previous to this one, previous to that one, and so on, going back to beginningless time and countless lifetimes, so that we have included all the beings within the 6 realms of existence and all around us.
And the Majing Simja Deta maybe Ninja, Rangi Duna said Lama Tubia Umbula, maybe and Tareta, Ichigeta, Mundugeta, into Kumbashet.
And that we automatically have this feeling of compassion for all the sentient beings all around us. And automatically this triple faith for the figure which composes the merit field in front, this faith, pure faith, a faith of conviction and manifest faith.
Order Kumbashet, and the Lama Tubia Umboti, and Tele said the Lama Tubia Umbote, Chivo Omka, Temba Amo, Tuga Hung, Yigisum set up, and then they get Chivo and Taba, Tuga Hungle, we said part of Meba Twinner. We said part of Meba Twinner, and Ranga Tago, Tinja Magan Simja Tam, we said the Power Tenner, Toma Mevan Tiba the Tiba. Condition saw you one, but Janji Taba Jesu, some such. Dinde Sawe Gersati, 아니 최배 아니 소수 전에 동성고 동체고 지대 건 용조 안 최배 소수 전에 아니 초주 개와세다 제발에 야 초바표바디 안 초주 개와세다 제발 초바데 다길시네 대다가 투규래 대화종 대외 동바제 대돈뉴스에 이시께서 삼산체
The Buddha in front is marked by the three syllables at the crown, a at the throat, and hung at the heart center. Light rays, countless light rays, begin to emanate from all the three syllables, and they enter into the crowns of all the sentient beings all around us, purifying all the negativities that they have accumulated since beginning this time, and getting rid of all the negativities and obscurations as well as their imprints. And all of the virtue that has been accumulated through this action is then offered and this is kind of emanated, it's kind of like multiplied 1,000-fold to all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and they accept the offerings. They are pleased by the offerings, and this bliss combines with voidness, and they abide in the wisdom of non-dual bliss and voidness.
어디를 공부하시네 아니 근데 초지 개와세다 제가 게 아니 투주 꾸네 아니 뭐 초지 개와세다 구송투게 연대 임바라 나바 아니 투바 좀 된데 그 남발 야 죄네 랑게 뒤나 세다 라마 투바 온고 데라 바팀 아니 바 니수 메바 죄네 니수 메바 교수 삼자체 아니 야 라야 라마 투바 온고 투가래 왜세 빠도 메바 전에 아니 온길 하나 젠자 온레 온고 ongelana chenda 대신 잡아는 게 들랑고 봐 on고도 시야서 왔다 왔네 아니 on래 on고는 취라고 저서 미기고 오게 되게 되는 공부시야
So then these all of the qualities of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, of their qualities of body, speech, and mind, kind of emanated from them, representing the wisdom beings, and they come to the crown of the central figure in our merit field and dissolve into the Guru Manindra. Then light rays go out again from the Guru Manindra, this time inviting all of the empowering deities. The empowering deities come from their natural abodes and bestow empowerment in the form of nectar. Some of this nectar overflows at the crown, spontaneously producing the figure of Akshobhya.
어디를 아니 어디를 아니 다 심지어 탐제가 도도 아니 산제 공부 못하면 다 들레 공부시 아니 심지어게 로아 심지어 탐제 아니 동해 나절 때네 로아 닝제 아니 대화 된도 그 잠바 공부시 잠바 아니 된데 그 동해에 나와라 미세베 닝제다 아니 대화다 된도 그 잠바 아니 대대 동해 탐제 때마다 대화 탐제 때마다 nye 지긴 스파 지가 줘도 다 제마도 봤음 세버래 제마도 봤으면 대대 제도에 네바도 술라 도스나 아니 sem제도 투게 람라라 웅바조바 산제바 틀라투 가서 sem제가 된 줘발라 가서라 삼바다 발anya 감다 메바 삼바 발anya 치다 와시도 마케와나 sem제가 된 비다 보지 두투 메바 임바에서 왔다 된데 두투근데 오다 뒤나세도 라마 투베 옹부도 레도 다 콩고 공부하지 마주바 이나 다 용해면도 데레서 콩고 공부하지 마주바 지금부터 두고이 삼사게 아니 공부시
And so then in contemplating the suffering of all sentient beings, we develop a compassion wishing to remove all of that suffering. And then reflecting on the absence of happiness in all sentient beings, we contemplate on love, the desire to place all sentient beings in happiness. And we even gain a certain level of confidence to pledge ourselves that I will be the one who will place all sentient beings in happiness and remove the suffering of all sentient beings. But of course, we very quickly realize how limited we are. We can't do this at this point. But when we search for the kind of being who has the capacity to do that, that we center on the one who has, for the benefit of all sentient beings, developed that mind of enlightenment, and for the benefit of all sentient beings, trained on the path, and for the benefit of all sentient beings, manifested full and complete enlightenment. This is a being who has, in terms of knowing the thinking and the disposition and so on of all sentient beings, is best placed to be able to not only remove their suffering, but to place them into every happiness. And that is the state of enlightenment itself, the state of a Buddha. And so I really have to rededicate myself to do whatever I can to attain that state of enlightenment. Because if I do not, then I know I am not in a position to actually fulfill the goal I have set for myself. And so I want to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, and thereby you generate the mind of enlightenment.
What the Rota the Janjuga Sem Digate, to make Kemele Kiguyoma, Rig to be Kula, Rig to be Table Yoma in Bayinza, the Janjuga Sem Kevalaya, the Sem Digatunga, now Missoba, Nije. They wanted to do Jamba Memona, because the Janjuga Sem Kevala, Hassam and a Tigamato. Hassam did you want to win now. La Monsieur Beninja that they wanted to do with Jamba Mena Yungumtua. Then they Yon la Semja Tamjala and Casoda Takaja. You won't get Jamba Kematona and you Semja Tamjala and you won't get Jamba Kematona, then they don't know our Monsieur Yungumtua, Casa Soso Casala, to win our Monsieur Yungure. Soso Magasala Yungumtua Yungumare. And the Shoga Gasa Yimbayinaya, Quanda Magasa Chana, and Quanda Ketu Yomare. That in the Dende pui takpo yungwa la karu kwa simje yin sabi chila tila kaso de yi tongwe jamba ketu kwa kogore. Dende ka yungwa jamba pui takpo mewa yina simje tam la mibe nyingje ketu kumare pui takpo chi tselonga chi. Simje tam la mibe jamba pui takpo ketu kumare. Dende ke mato na ane simje tam mibe haksam ketu kumare. Dende haksam ke mato wana simje tam ka sanje kuma dugu yin sabi dende lo pui takpo ketu kumare ba. Ketu kumato, ta tigete ko chikchila tene yongu kutwa. A tigeze tene yu masangwa chi chubu kutwa. Tene yongwa ke jamba kewa da yongwa jamba kege insana pengumato. Yongwa jamba de kewa la ya, ane semje tamje jinchenpo yinba. Rata marshe jinche jiso sumde kogutwa. Di mena yongtu kumatwa. Rwa yongtu kumatwa. Diya se chik se nyingwa toma meba da jinchenpo yinba. Diya pama jebe kato jiba, pama me jebe kato jinchenpo yinba. Wata diga chigi yabuchi kasade yabuchi nyeba yinba yina jinchibane ane dila jin soya sang. Jin soya ane yungwa ki jamba tongkuru. Jin soya yudara yungwa ki jamba tongkuru wa. Jende chungwa yinba yina ane dila dunga nawa na misuwa nyingje yungkuru wa. Ane dila dewa dila haksam yungkuru wa. Dila haksam jowa yina dila dhubtuyo nyubachi tagiru wa. Oda sanje goma dara ichazana, sanje goma dhuwe lodi ke tukuru wa. Oda kacha ko chigla chigden yonggu dwa di za ko chig ngama chima yongwa la ngama la to gu dwa ngama de ani pu ta bo yo ani chima de pu ta de yonggu dwa ta de ge ngo zo gori ma cho wa man wa cho gu dwa.
So when we speak of this mind of enlightenment, we are speaking of something that can be attained based on the accumulation of the correct causes. It is all a validly established system whereby we reach a point of that exalted intention, that intense personal responsibility for actually leading all sentient beings to that state of enlightenment. Now, that is, of course, built upon previous causes that must be in line with that particular result in order to really guarantee that it is something which is genuine, which is valid, and which will be complete. And so when we talk about that, we're talking about really generating initially this sense of affectionate love for all sentient beings. Why? Because they are sentient beings. This cannot be a kind of part-time idea where one is feeling the bliss and happiness of sentient beings in the morning, but it's all dissipated by evening. Or it can be for some but not be for others. This is an act, this is a mind state of affection, of feeling this closeness, of really being invested in the welfare of all sentient beings just because they are sentient beings. It is, we talk about kind mother sentient beings, or recognizing all sentient beings as beings one's parents in a previous life. But whether or not they have been our parents, we should display this affectionate love for all sentient beings. And then on the basis of that, we develop this love, wishing to place all sentient beings in happiness, this great compassion, wishing to remove the suffering of all sentient beings. And that then leads to this exalted intention of taking personal responsibility, which is the precursor to the mind of enlightenment, that vow to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. But of course, even that affectionate love is also built again upon the causes of seeing all sentient beings as one's mother, of really recognizing the incredible kindness and dedication and sacrifice of the mother, and then the desire to repay that kindness. And that when these three initial causes are generated genuinely, then they automatically lead to this affectionate love. And that this is, then what leads to the causes. So every cause it really has to be carefully built on its previous cause. And what we achieve later on is the quality and the intensity and the value of what we achieve later on can only be built on the quality and value and the intensity that we put into it at the causal stage. And so this is kind of like leading really the talking about the seven cause and effect, but it's the importance is that one cause is built upon another to lead to the next stage of that mind training. And not only should we do so with doing the most authenticity that we can muster, but also it must be done in the proper order.
그래다 거제 치마 개발을 nga마 라레다 nga마 가제 피다가네 치마데 피다다다다다 용게지 다다 용게지 용거래도 와 인자 그 당부디 개체부 주자 개체부래도 왔다 와다 되게 인자 와대도 때 아니 로다데 군대 명아되는 다 다시 냠제 권에 제버다 다시 냠제 권에 제대 영어가 잡았게 셔도 지고로 로 동엔 뭐서데 란진제 견다 현진제 교 란진제 견다 현진제 연대 고도만에 삼로다네 아니 심제다 동엔 나와라 미소 대화도제 동에 믿어봐 인사 아니 대화도제 동에 믿어봐 디 좀전도 제네 아니 대화 좀되다 동에 반도치 좀제 디되나 아니 디잖아 아니 디정원도 되네 된데가 돈에 아니 이왕게 잡아지 개봐 이나 아니 지가서래 샘제데 소소로 팬 도메라 마도봐 내가 지금 팬도 뇌게면 가르치면 마도봐 대화도제 동에 믿어봐 이제 좀전도 제도 아니 소소라 내가 기는 제마이나 대화도 동안 믿어봤더래 현재 말와 다 좀더 뒤 온도 전에 아니 양고 가서래 지금 가서래 로다 뒤 돈에 아니 이왕게 잡아게 아니 잡아 뒤 전에 아니 동에 나올라 미세봐 대화된도 잡아 아니 학생께 아니 왔다 학생께는 다 소소 지가도 제마도 봐서 근데 제는 누가도 솔라서도 아니 뒤나 세대 라마 투배 뭐 마토나 또 되네 이거 라마 뭐 고마만 또 두바 지기 삼사 저 로케바 이나 lo kewa ina ta chuma ma yinba kena ta chanju sem sikirwa. Di gyula dimbe kansa ta chanju semba sikirwa. Wotere.
So the later stages of such training are carefully built upon the previous stages that we have accomplished. And so it's extremely important how we begin any training like this, that the foundation really has to be laid down extremely carefully. This details the 7 cause and effect instruction for the generation of the mind of enlightenment. There is an alternative way of doing that, which is called the equalizing and exchange of self and other method. But this is also built upon the generation of that pivotal stage of affectionate love for all sentient beings. And so here we're looking at the faults of self-cherishing versus the benefits of cherishing others, and trying to reverse the importance that we place on these. So we are generating the cause here is to identify that sentient beings want happiness and do not want suffering. And so this is established at a very fundamental level. And so this acts as the primary reasoning for the development of this method. That just by the sentient beings, just by the very fact that sentient beings want happiness and do not want suffering, then I should develop the mind which cherishes others and to reduce the importance drastically on my own self-cherishing. And that this reasoning then leads to this, again, point of the affectionate love for all sentient beings. And from that stage, then one again develops the compassion, the great compassion, wishing to remove suffering, and the love, wishing to establish all in happiness. And from that, the exalted intention, and then ultimately the mind of enlightenment itself. And so in this context, we are wishing to attain the state, as in synonymous with the Guru Manindra that we are visualizing in front as the merit field, and developing that mind of enlightenment to benefit of all sentient beings. And we do so, when we do so absolutely sincerely, wishing to, that we can back that up, we can really follow that through, then we said to have developed the mind of enlightenment.
못해. 다 된자 섬제 탐제가 오다 저기 가서데 저기 가서데 저기 자주가 셈 깨발라 에는 중앙망아마도 계셔만 되게디 강투도가 삼로 땅전에 에는 자주가 셈 중나 주마만이 받아 나 당보를 가보래다 이는 주마 춘제가 삼로 땅전에 어딘데 깨봤지 아니 된데게 섬제 탐제가 산제 고마 두고 섬제 된데게 가서도 듬바디 아니 듬바디 아니 가서도 이게 아치라 주소 삼사샤 아 용수 주발레 에 다외 긴거 냐강와자 랑닝 요수들에서 내소 삼사 어디를 공부하셔.
And so we realizing that our focus here is all sentient beings, that the causes that we can generate, the extent to which they are valid is dependent upon the causes that they are built upon, the previous causes that we have laid down, and that we do everything with the absolute ultimate sincerity and the sense of that which is genuine, and for which we have great integrity and so on, as much as we can. And that aspiration even to gain that sense of absolute sincerity in our desire to benefit all sentient beings is transformed into the syllable "ah," which in turn becomes the moon disk mandala at our heart center.
어디 보면 다디 다 된데게 아니 장주가 셈데 뒤 남야 땅게면 삼사제 로 단다 주마 춘제가 돼 주마 많이 배워줘 주마 많이 받에는 권에 권도 패네 아니 배탈 다가 산제 고마 마도가 봐도 배티 땅게면 삼사 담자샤 어디르죠
And so then we make this powerful vow never to forsake this mind of enlightenment, and to really focus on the degree to which it lacks any sincerity or integrity at the moment. We will habituate it with it more and more and more, to refine that and to actually distill that mind of enlightenment so that it is purely sincere as much as we possibly can, but we will never ever forsake it.
오다 개와 상부 시우중 다른 게 미룰렘바 디나는 된저고 룰렘바 디나는 산제게 땜바 제와데 다 다른 게 운에잖아 미닝불 정서 야뭐 시부중소도 가고
And so we should really take note of this moment, that we know we have taken a human rebirth. We may know we have taken a precious human rebirth. We have met with the Buddha Dharma, but is this just right now in this moment I am making this life meaningful? And that means everything. That's something that we should really rejoice in.
다 되는서 어떤 산제 고바 두고 세계 나데 아니 유대는 좀 제와체 다 유대는 두바 임바이나 아니 두고 사가 제면도 그 두에 요 말이야 가서 유대는 두바 임바는 교대 매바 인상 아니 두고 나데 유대는 좀도 나제는 나 유대는 라왕게 좀도 나데 랑게 루데 레드야 셈데 레드야 아니 루셈레 셰베 나지 두게 제바 제원들 아니 그 뉴스에 얘기면도 다 많이 받을 가르다 된 거였으나 나 라왕도 맞으면 다된 나 라왕도 주변에 나 라왕도 좀도 제주도 나한테 니고 그래 여자들 다 많이도 가르다 나 라왕도 좀도 나 라왕도 맞으와 인사 다 매번에 말해 여와도 녀에 주도 나 기부도 서 녀에 주고도 다 여당디 그 때내 중앙에 샤스 때내 중앙에 샤스 어디 이마데 녀바테는 녀바테도 어때네 맞아 다 때내 중앙에 샤스 다 가서데 녀바녀 답제네 다 간자자 다 주도 좀더 제바지다 또 많이 받다가 셈샤 어디르샤
So this desire that we have to attain enlightenment, this mind of enlightenment, wishing to attain the state of enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, when we look into it, we see that this we say that this self wishing to attain that has no validity. It's not established in terms of its own side. From its own side, and that when we actually search for that I and analyze within the body-mind complex, this I that appears to have a self-powered existence, something which is independent, we search and we search, but we do not find such a self. And we look within the body and different parts of the body. We look within the mind, the different parts of the mind. We look beyond that. Now, is it something that therefore exists beyond the body and mind? But through all analysis, we reach kind of a brick wall of not really finding that which appears to be so self-powered. And that we conclude then that that such a self cannot exist. If it did, I ought to have found it. I ought to have revealed it. But because of that, I can conclude that it doesn't exist. Can I then include that such a self is a non-existent, that self itself is non-existent? No, I cannot conclude that self is non-existent because I can speak from my own experience. I am happy, I am sad, and so on. This is from my own experience. And that then but it actually reveals to me how the mode of existence of such a self has to be that which arises independence. It arises independence upon other causes and conditions, and the more we gain that sort of conviction, it's very, very important. So when we're doing the analysis, we reach the end of the analysis of not finding the self-powered idea of an I or a self. And so we call this the mere negation of the object of negation. And so we reach the end of the analysis of not finding it, and we place our mind on that, single-pointedly on that position.
What is it? What Rawand to Mudo Chen, Rawand Matuba thing moto on that thing was a good news there. Rawand Tuba Yina, and a Simja Tamja Sanja Sala cooking in Senaco, because to be a Megan cooking in Sarako, 10 to a matter. That Rawand Matuba is that to where you are moto on good. Rawand Matuba Yima is that you're done the 10 to Barishas, that you can that Chasha that 10 to Barishas. Ruata, 10 to Barishas. What and that's Sanjay Kumar singing there. What to be your Sunday? To be Yungudu. Karsanaco, Rawanda to Modoa, Ta, Yedandi, but 10 to one at once, and you get Sobala Soba to 10 to Bongu. Only all this. Tamuna than a good news chat here. To be is the one that took to a guitar, took to a Yobati, Motungutua. Motungutua.
And so when we reach that point, the significance of reaching that point of the mere negation of the object of negation is to cut through the idea that such a self can be self-powered, can be an independent entity. And this should strike us immediately as good news. This is excellent, because because if I had actually, through my analysis, discovered that the self was in fact self-powered and independent, it would actually make it impossible to, for example, follow a path to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, because it would completely deregister the validity of the law of cause and effect. But the fact that when I find that I cannot be self-powered, I cannot be independent, it therefore implies that I arise in dependence. I arise in dependence upon causes and conditions, and that I can proceed on that basis, and it validates the law of cause and effect. It makes possible the idea that I could, on the basis of causes and conditions, establish the state of enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings.
What is it? What then they round to Mundu Chebachen and Maniba Tagarangala Sem Shane, Kaja Katam, they got a Sem Sha. And then they gave a lottie. Gave a lottie is a rota around the Maduba, then they gave a lottie. And the Casore, Takanja, Yigi Hunchila Jung. Hun also Jovale, and Dojika was Zanga Wachekone, Davet and water, Langda Winters near some such.
And so this merely not finding of such a self, placing that on the mere negation of the object of negation, and placing one's mind on that in single-pointedness, this really gaining that conviction in what we have established, produces the syllable home, and that syllable home transforms into a white five-pronged Vajra, which sits upright vertically on the moon disk at our heart center.
Oh, talk and the Janju Semda Tony Tobe, Shera Neve, Lotte, do Namia Tangame. Tanda was a Chuma Sunja, that Chuma Sunjete, Chuma Mayuba, Mole, get to Bajan, Chuma Mayuba, the Gona Gondo Pen, Tar Casora Takanja, Sanjay Kuma Matoga Bato. Sanjay to you get Rangi Tanda Tamevege, and then they Caso de Janju Sem, the Tony Tobe, Sharon gave a lotte, Tar Chisan, Tar Sanjay to you and Caso de Takanja Janju said the Tony Tobe, Sharon, and more like you to Matuga Bato, to Namia Lugame Samsachin, to Namia Lugame Samsach, what in
And so at this point, then, we have established the mind of enlightenment, symbolized by the moon disk, and the view of emptiness, the emptiness of wisdom, as symbolized by the white five-pronged Vajra, and that we again reassert our conviction here that we will never forsake these twin mind states of the desire to attain the mind of enlightenment and the wisdom realizing emptiness. And whatever is insincere within that promise, that vow, I vow to purify it out. I want to make my life, integrate these so far into my everyday existence and everything I do, that they become completely genuine as a part of who I am, and may they increase more and more and more, and continue to be that way until enlightenment itself. And I will never forsake these mind states.
어디 다들 랑게 닝게 위수 내네 다들 내가 가르쳐 버려서 야나양도 랑게 덴바데 셰싱게 심제네 심바제네 디 야나양도 대술라네 아니 랑젠 장주게 셈디 랑게 단다 쇼마춘조 공부할때 디 아니 배 가서데 랑젠제데 누가 충도 전에 아니 셴젠제 바시게 뭐를 주투에 돈이도베 셰라 공바티게 먼저 내가 가르치고 그러려나 네 공바 딜라 때네 아니 랑게 뇽mom베 초아티가도 슉충다 저 다음에 도베 셰라게 랑게 로디게데 로컬레체네 다음에 도베 셰라게 아니 가서데 나발라 바 다음에 도베 셰라게 나면 걸바 주투바치 제고에다 다들 내가 차대고요. 내가 어디 삼로 당전 어디 당간자 디 뭐라 유튜브에서도 어디 마사 소리를 공부해 어디서
And so that we have kind of laid down some sort of down payment really on these mind states now in our mind, at our heart center, and to kind of use the mental factors of mindfulness and alertness to continuously remind ourselves that this is the level at which we should be acting at, and that we're doing everything to, move from the kind of an artificial, really, creation of the mind of enlightenment into something that is constant, real, and genuine. And that here we are using every opportunity to diminish the powerful influence of self-cherishing on our own minds, and to increase the importance with which we cherish others as much as possible. And that this is kind of a game of constant habituation, habituation to reducing the influence of mental affliction, and the habituation to holding others in great esteem and wanting to be of benefit to them in every way possible. And along with this, of course, it's the familiarity with the wisdom of selflessness that is very, very key to all of this, that it allows for us to see through the reality of all of these relationships. And so it's what does it look like in everyday life? It's this business of using our mindfulness and alertness to remind us to apply the principles of the mind of enlightenment and the wisdom realizing selflessness as in every possible situation.
나라도게 제 꾸노 요 말에다 이나 공배 온게 토마모면 공배 온게 랑첸젠다 안 단지 말이 바니 랑게데 닝게 위수 요와서 그뒤에 홀레가 따다 지기도 내가 따다 지기도 와 따디 슉중다 다야 돼도 다 가르치거든 랑첸젠 카데 자에도 자주겠어 라 다음에 단지 말이 바 카데 자도 다음에 또 베셔랍 따디 다모데 등할 공부 매바 인사 좀세 요래 좀세 양다바 요래 가서 잡대 참아 요래 이나양 랑고 공부 매바 인자 다디 고바 수에네 마게바 깨바 관에 건도배 아니 잡아도 시신게 아니 가서데 자 카도라 가서 라레 따투바 제전 다디 제바 이나 아니 랑게 닝이나 통마매만 나라도 가서다 딕테이터디 단지 말이 보다 랑젠지 니디 다 니바 충단에고 매서고요다 로 나라도 라와 마데가 다 문에다네 라와 마데가 쪼디 디차데도 통마매바네 딕테이터 문에 되더다
So for us, you know, that even though we have no kind of like overt motivation, it is very clear that the self-cherishing notion and the ignorance of grasping at a self-entity are predominant in our lives. They are, and they gain that predominance purely through habituation. You know, that since beginning this time, we have been operating under this sort of dictatorship of self-cherishing and the ignorance of grasping at a self-entity. And so when we talk about generating the mind of enlightenment and the wisdom of selflessness, we are talking about that which can directly oppose this dictatorship. And that not only that, but these are not just ideas that have been plucked out of the air. The mind of enlightenment and the wisdom of selflessness are based on valid reasoning, which is always going to trump habituation. And so it's kind of like we pray that to whatever extent the mind of enlightenment and the wisdom of selflessness have not been generated, may they arise and grow. And whatever has been generated may increase more and more. And so it is that point that, you know, we generate the strength of mind that comes with the mind of enlightenment and the wisdom realizing selflessness to initially reduce the influence of self-cherishing and the ignorance of self-grasping, but with a very keen goal to eradicate them completely.
그래도 그랬다. 가서래 랑젠젠데 개보소라체 단제 말이 바디 개모소라체 내가 컨트롤 지기도 개보다 개모된데 로아다 dictator 개보다 개모 컨트롤 지기도 그러와 다 장주가 셈다 동니도 베샤 장주가 셈데 아니 추기 개보소라체 동니도 베샤라데 추기 개모소라체네 다디 샤모도 좋도 바지 거기서 제국도
So it's like we're going into some sort of battle with the self-cherishing kind of king and the grasping at the true existence of a self-entity as the queen, and we are on our side generating we have the king of the mind of enlightenment and the queen of the wisdom of selflessness to oppose them and to really have to guarantee victory over them.
Looks two party. Now our party is more so going to what's called dictator there, king or queen. Now we need to go changing go
rebel.
Yeah. Dama king and the Dama queen need yeah. What the does right. Right, Janju same day and because Chuy Gabo. Don't need to be shut up there and Chuy Gamo Soroja. That the Pento the tone and the Dilla was the board to go election, the top channel.
And so, yes, we can talk about it in these terms of two different parties where we are under the control of a very corrupt government of self-cherishing and the grasping at the true existence of a self. And we are creating a new party to oppose the incumbent party. Our party is referred to as the Dharma King and Queen party of the mind of enlightenment and the wisdom of selflessness. We have to win the next election.
What in the summer, what the Janju Semda, Tony Tobe, Sheriff Chunjig, Dawa Doji, Tsering about the two Namia Lugame, son, and the Jamba the Shishing some Kodu in there, what because of the Kasure, Tametobe, Sheriff Lola Chatue, Kuka Katichuma in there, Tametobe Lola Chatue, Kuka Katichuna, Janju some Lola Chatue. Oh, dear Samutan. What is Samutan? And it did it, Namshina. Ranje the Tanzi Mari when you shoot the Chunda 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 to Urwa. 충도 좋으래. 뭐더라.
And so we have this the moon disk mandala representing the mind of enlightenment, and the upright five-pronged vajra representing the wisdom of selflessness at our heart center. And these, we again pledge that whenever the opportunity arises, I will put these minds and the thinking behind these mind states into action, into play, and that in doing so, by again using our mindfulness and alertness again to make it the new habit of placing mind of enlightenment, wisdom of selflessness front and center in our lives, then we will be reducing the impact and influence of self-cherishing and the ignorance of self-grasping.
어디 다 가제 나라도 잠도 지고요래 잠도 제도 뭐저게 잠도라 대접다 규잡 연구로 와 규잡대다 가서데 로 규잡대 아니 다 가제 저 가서래다 가사 현주를 예배다 가서 산제의 최다 긴두고 연대되게 들어와 다 대접서도 랑상계와 상계 로 상계당 아니 다가는 신게 디 그래서 최대 디 투주를 연대돼서 연구를 다 거들었잖아. 로 다가자 랑상계와 상계당 아니 다가는 신랑 가서도 동영고선 또 셰랍디 아니 최고죠. 랑 파베 긴들 그래서 최고다 동영고선도 셰랍 란줄을 때네 된왜 다 간사들 기두고 줬어. 되네 람 지상도 치네 아니 랑다 상계 공부하더라도 상계 구조스기로 대접그 상계 구조스기로 그래서 대접그 상계 구조 최고죠. 기두구조 여기 마사데 가르스로 다 다른 어저 삼로 담았네. 다와 도지 쟁가 봐 되래도 와. 다와 도지 쟁가 봐 마사데도 와.
And so, of course, you know, it's like when we go for refuge, we understand that there is a causal refuge and a resultant refuge. And the causal refuge is through the prayer that we say. We go for refuge to the Buddha jewel, the Dharma jewel, and the Sangha jewel, and that they are kind of like external to us, as it were, at this point. But the ultimate goal is to really establish the resultant refuge in our own mind stream, which means that, for example, the Dharma jewel is the realizing of emptiness in our own mind streams. And the one who has that realization in their own mind stream is the Sangha jewel, an Arya Sangha being. And of course, to hone that understanding, that realization, we attain ultimately the Buddha jewel and become enlightened ourselves. And so, at all stages, that we really want to understand that by going for refuge, even the causal refuge, that we want to actually reach, attain the resultant refuge that is kind of like a part and parcel of that.
다가는 저 뭐저 대발에 다가와 다발 당에 대바 이직이 대바 운동이 대바서 그러 당에 대바데 가려서 뒤 연대 통으로 산제 군조게 다 최군조다 긴대 군조다 인대 그도 돈 당에 대바로 와. 다 연대 당 이직이 다 연대 된대 제바다 누구 말했었네. 아니 다 이직이 대바 주고도 와. 다 아니 운동이 대바 나야 되게 중나 다 되게 연대 제바도 나야 되게 중나 삼사대 아니 소소 데레가 연대 대바 제더라 대두가 산제 구조의 창고도 와. 또 대발이야. 또 당에 대바 이직이 대바 운동이 대바서. 그도 그 잠자도 대바 차되기도 와. 남배 투모 많이 배 대바. 남배 투모 많이 배 잠자도 그 대바 차되기도 와.
So there is the connection between when we speak about refuge in this way and the mention of those triple faiths that we mention each time, the faith, the pure faith, the faith of conviction, and manifest faith. And so really pure faith is something about recognizing the qualities of an enlightened being, of coming to understand the qualities of Buddha's body, speech, and mind, and having then this kind of appreciation of those qualities. And then the faith of conviction is having thought about them, and then to really have the aspiration to emulate those qualities. And the manifest faith is taking that a stage further to actually realizing that, yes, I can do this. I can. If I stick to the cause and effect relationship, I can establish the causes to attain this, then this, and then this, and then this. I can manifest those actual qualities that I recognized and aspired to. And so this is the role in which the triple faith plays. And so this relates to then both the causal and resultant sense of refuge. And so this idea of refuge, and this idea of the triple faiths, they're all based on how well we are doing with our kind of like our initial investment in the mind of enlightenment and the wisdom of emptiness, as represented at our heart center, and to make that our main heart practice is extremely important. And so that when we improve, we can improve the degree to which we apply it in everyday life, the intensity and the skill that through which we refine those applications. And this is the job of the teachings, really, that we present so many different so much different kind of psychology that we can use, and angles that we can come from, the logic and so on, to be able to back up all the decisions that we make based on this basis of the mind of enlightenment and wisdom of emptiness.
타민다오다 기부 중고다 기부 딩다 기부 침빌람서 거 마게바 깨베체도다 차전 가서 기부 중고다 딩디가 딩중다 되네 기부 침빌 깨바티자 깨네 관데 배야들 되네 기부 침빌람래 아니 가서 규파진 택바데 제부상가 도지 택바 송고도 제부상가 도지 택바들래다 리그민다 망부 자주 주주 내조 라메 리그 내조 코란도 규 소소가 미라고다 두자가 자롱 til에 감민다와 요배 좀 저게 때네 대다 되면서 마마 도서도 장주거선다 돈이 도배 싫어 마게바 깨바 관에 건도면 다 같이 뭐 영화 체도래도 돈다 소디도 아 민다 망보시 우세다 미 감다 매바 삼바 발라냐와 민다와 임바 인자 탑지 민다 망보 쳤네 제용데 아니 다가는 루가 따다 롱다 til에 조다 민다와 아니 나가 좀 민다와 망보시 우지 용데 되게 같은 연구서 소 금세 저한테 장주거서 돈이 더 싫어 마게바 깨바 관에 건도 배치들도 이 탈지 뭐 영화 체들도
And so the prayer says, that which is not arisen, rise and grow, and that which has arisen, increase more and more. And so it is important to understand that the mind of enlightenment and the wisdom of selflessness act as like a basis, but that they are also ever present throughout the path, no matter where we enter that path. And they are also the goal of the path wherever we enter that path. So we have heard of the 3 different capacities of beings and so on, and the path that's laid out for the person of smaller capacity, the path that is laid out for the one of medium capacity, and the path that is laid out for the one of greater capacity. And that can be, you know, into the perfection vehicle and then to the Vajra vehicle, where you begin the discussion of how to make use of channels, winds, and drops, and so on. And that this all is dependent upon the different aspirations, the different dispositions of practitioners, of individuals, and that where they see themselves, how much they can take as well as on for practice and so on. But at no point is the mind of enlightenment and the wisdom realizing selflessness not relevant to any of these paths, and that it must be understood that even on the smaller capacity being level, the goal is still the perfection of the mind of enlightenment and the perfect realization of selflessness. And that should be clear no matter where one enters the path.
네, 다가 이제 좀더 민다와 용데, 그러나 좀더래 가서데 또 대봐 아니 제자마 또 대봐 샘자마 오마바 오마란 주바 오마탄 주바 다가자 민다와 강가 다도데 다가자 가서데 장주 샘다 돈이 또베 시라고 계획체도 손도 와 되게 그가 다그탑 개와 제를 감다 매바 민다와 요바 인자 그람 가서 미 감다 좀 맞잖아 용화에서도 잖아 다가 이제 장주가 샘 맞아와 깨봐 권내고 돈이 또베 시라 맞아와 깨봐 권내 권도 배체도 다 탑제기다 지금 라망부 그래서 탑시망부 제대한 것도 왔다 또도 장주가 돈이 또베 제 안에 권내 권도 배체도 되 탑시민자 뭐 쉬고 레고도 와 그거다 그 가서래 돔자사데 다 마토서 장주서 돈이 또베 시라도 와 좋아 그래도 가서 먼저 누구들 란지자 단지 머리 배내고 요래 이 년보 다음에 또 장주가 그래서 현재다 아니 가서데 다음에 또 시라니 되게 당 먼저 디 공배 맞아봐 깨봐 권에 권도 빼내다 지금 뭐 이거 내주다 tumbe 권에 아니 대화 두고다 동에 세고지 람시 땡기도 와 데리도 와
And so the teachings, they present a kind of a bewildering array of techniques and means by which we can perfect these 2 mind states, the mind of enlightenment and the wisdom realizing emptiness. And for example, even the wisdom realizing emptiness, so we can go through all the different tenets of meaning through the different philosophical viewpoints as presented by groups known as the Vaibhashika, the Sautantrika, the Chittamatran, and then the middle way view, the Madhyamika, Prasangika, and the different divisions within the Madhyamika as well, the middle way point of view. So this is all about honing one's understanding and refining one's understanding of what is a self and what is the absence of a self, what does it look like, and to what degree, and so on, one negates the self. And so all of this is kind of important, and then combined with the mind of enlightenment, you know, we continuously make this prayer that in terms of the mind of enlightenment, whatever has arisen, may it arise and grow and increase more and more. In terms of emptiness, whatever has arisen, may it arise and grow and increase more and more. And that we have to understand as well that this is no accident, that these 2 concepts have been picked as the foundation and the basis and the means and the result that we're aiming for, because they are the supreme antidotes to the 2 main issues that we always face, the self-cherishing attitude and the grasping at the true existence of a self. And so they are not just acting as antidotes here, but they are presenting the actuality of life. They are saying that the idea of living kind of controlled by self-cherishing and the ignorance of self-grasping is counter to reality. And this is the actuality where we want to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, and we develop the wisdom realizing emptiness and to eradicate suffering and to establish the path.
Okay,那我咱给这忙不穿着的光大，给这忙不穿着的，大点的因为意思，他感觉这个，他感觉让给那个月说，那么到多就这样吧的了，俺恐怕些，那么特别我土个来到多就这样吧去，要不这我的恐怕些，第他我就特别从大到我们的说，我大点的因为意思，我大点的个，他都是的讲究个这东西特别写了嘛，就我特别我意思，第一切都。说第一切都大感觉这个军这个兄弟人个意思，我在恐怕下，我在想，光大概的某个给这某个谁们都他给这把吹这个多。
So I apologize for going off on a tangent. To bring us back, that we have this moon disk and the 5-pronged Vajra standing on it at our heart center. This is also to be seen at the heart center of the Guru Manindra, who is representing the merit field for us in the space in front. And that combination is now including the name mantra of Shakyamuni Buddha, Tayata Muni Muni Mahamuni Soha, surrounding the Vajra and sitting on the moon disk. And so with that in mind, and keeping that visualization as much as possible, we will enter the text.
Okay.
Shokdrang Nigya Nishu Zapshi Gilader Shiba Nyomongbe Nyagel Chawala Mirikba.
Shiba Nyomongbe Ngache Chawa Mirikba. Oreta. Chidanta Sosuke Semjig Doyantro, Tange Chetuga, Yamling, Chetuga, Ngache, Chekoti, Ngache, Yaga Ngache. Sosuke Kasura, Takaja, Sosuke, Yam Kasol, that Tundu Pita Yong Chedo. Gewala Joake, Tundu Pita Yong Chedo. Takaja. And what in the young Chedo, the go to water, the Babayina, and the Casade, Casade, Dio Casade, Lelula, Rocasade, Casa, Jawang Lelo, and Daniel Kiluben Lelo, Daniel Casa, Kiluben Yellow, and Daniel Nieve Lelo Snakanja, what in the young and so Chicasura. And the Chick Donar Joba, yet to Maris hard to Yanga you do, what so the jet to go Yobati. What in the Tadilla? Ngaje de gogu yo bacha yana gogu yo da ina ya ko yawa cheshi bacha ne shiba nyomo be ngaje chawa mirwa ta ya chikaso le ta re ta kanja nyomo ge chola jwa de de ge ngaje re da chana chingwa le mirwa la somcha nyomo be ngaje la meba di nimi de bangwa rigwa osa.
And so we're arriving at a point of the text where we are discussing the opposition between an afflicted pride and a self-confidence, which is seen as an essential part of this chapter known as the chapter on enthusiastic effort. And if we look into enthusiastic effort and indeed the faults that must be overcome are the main impediments to enthusiastic effort, they are listed as the 3 lazinesses. The laziness of being attached to negative activities, the laziness of procrastination, of constantly putting things off, and then the 3rd laziness of defeatism, of saying, can't do. And what we are doing here in these verses is presenting the self-confidence that is not tripping over into a pride or arrogance, but the self-confidence which is countering that third laziness in particular, the laziness of I can't, into yes, you can, we can do. And this we had arrived at a point in the text where it is about to discuss the incorrectness of acting through an afflicted pride. And this has three subheadings. The first is this disparaging the afflicted pride, and two, showing the fault of that pride, and secondly, how we can then apply an antidote or to abandon or overcome such a pride. And so this is verse number 56, which says, whoever has self-importance is destroyed by it. He is disturbed and has no self-confidence. For those with self-confidence do not succumb to the power of the enemy, whereas the former are under the sway of the enemy of self-importance.
롭종제 최망부 퇴발할 때는 아니 녀몬 숙청도 조고 그러다 얘나 섬정어저 냠내를 자마도 왔잖아 아니 녀몬 숙청도 조조 차올라 녀몬 숙체도 저에도 용되기로 와 모두 내당 보라 오 당아 퇴발하고 퇴발 숙청보정에 신규요 그 신규 말이 쓰는 소치 그러와 나 냠내 지금 그 지금 말이 쓰는 소치 그걸 요 말이 쓰는 소리 다가제 미션을 저 소소 냠내 저와도 미션을 통중지에 소라다 오다데 만배 지에서 소라데 용미스와 말하다 근데 준의 지구와 말을 소라 좋았음제 가라 퇴발라 소바다 소소게 지 로망부 추고 로정제 퇴발망부 쳐봐 야나 소소게 지금 추고 돌아 삼로망부 다네 삼로망부도 언제 삼로망부다 그 땅 요말 그 신경 말을 쓰는 소리지 지시나 통주지에서 어떤 게 검망부자 그 검거는 잡님을 그 아무거나 고고 말을 쓰는 소리 근데 그 시나 통주지 어때 나제 전에 지금 이렇게 그래서 로다 퇴방 무엇을 전에 상바도 공발라서 로다 쌤 킹비에서 나게게 다니 좀 받아 다데 제바이는 아니 소소소소로 뇌제 좁아서 다 소소게 대화를 뇌게기로 와 로아 아니 미디 또서 싱글다 미디 나게 타고 열어서 미 망가와 지기로 와그 또서 집이 직또 싱글다 이나 고 나게 타고 냠네 지금 말해서 미게 동주지에서 자기로 와 다니 좀 봐. 되네. 녀모 쟁게 인게다. 디 녀모 쟁게 나제 소소 느끼래서. 나제 전에 많이 됐다요. 다다데 다 지금 오다 지금 소소 냠는 게 지금 셀라 편방 게 두고 있어. 이게 그 누구 말했어. 나제 지금 많이 돼. 그러다 가제 제 뭐서 가서 다다데 다다 이제 가서래 준주 계획에 아니 튕겨라 주의겠다. 로다 튼제라 조에게 로다 와다도 저 누구 말해서 나제체는 많이인데 방자래 개월자고스티 된데게 디 아니 로다 녀몽고 쳐다 아니 저기 가서다 다 아니 다 가서데 냠len 제라 고겐 지겐래 아니 개와티 딜레 아니 개와체 그래서 자워 냠베 그러고서 방자래 개와자워 냠베 나제네 자유원도 미도다티 아니 녀모가 자유원도 좀 말해서 미도라죠. 샘 킹베에서 킹베 좋아되는 녀모보다 나제가 자유원도 좋아서 와다 샘지마 소소 신경에 그러 콜랭아 야가 신경에서도 지 킹바체는 소소 그러 인도도 되는데 녀모가 나제는 나제게 자유원도 좋아. 다디고 라신 니가를 뇌에 줄줄서 교회치를 셔고 오죠.
And so here we're discussing again the idea of kind of like entering into the Dharma and getting to know, to study, to gain some knowledge of the teachings and so on is for the purpose of reducing our mental afflictions. However, on occasion, it can actually cause an arrogance to arise. It's kind of this pride, this afflicted pride of really selling tickets on yourself. Think, oh yeah, I know so much. I know more than you. You don't understand, but I do. That sort of idea. And that, this is basically looking down on others simply by the fact that you have got more information. But it says nothing about your practice at all, because it's counteracting any benefits you might have from having that information. And so these is kind of like this, such a person indeed is very unlikable, isn't it? They kind of like quickly gain a reputation for being arrogant, and they do nothing to kind of attract people to them. It's quite the opposite. And so it's kind of like this verse is really saying that such a person, whoever it is, whether through learning and so on, they develop this afflicted arrogance. They are destroyed by that same arrogance. Um, and that they are, have no genuine self-confidence. It's a kind of a mask, really, that can be quickly removed or revealed. And that, it is the person with self-confidence who can resist such affliction, and is not controlled by the enemy of this afflicted self-confidence, or sorry, afflicted pride. And that it's kind of like quite obvious that those who are arrogant in that way are the very ones who are controlled by or overcome. They're puffed up and full of pride, and they're under the control of that very afflictive emotion. And this is something which is rather destructive, because it can be something which is harmful to both oneself and others.
我的，他感觉这个个说的个说的这个鸟木的外界的属性不结为那，真的外界公布了原来个出马加是的，这个说的，这个让了原来三百几了那个的，俺新个月多的，俺几个月多的是真的，原来三百几了那个多，是吧？是吧？本来人多多的这个出这个嘛是吧？人多多的那个出这个嘛是吧？ 주도 근데 공고날 되기로 오다가 이제 나제 사고 저도 연대 사와께를 되기도
And so the this particular affliction, if it's quite powerful, it is said that for somebody with that sort of arrogance, a kind of pride, it is very difficult for them to generate new positive qualities. The saying goes is that on the peak of pride, the water of good qualities cannot stay. And so it's very, very clear.
어들 근데 가서 저 맞지 또 신경이 받지 아니 나제를 전도 아니 저기 롭종 요게 된데 소소 롭종 도상 되는도 기대 시가자 아니想把它 통중 지혜라고 근데 용 되기도 나제 사보지 그래 배는 열 용거래 배는 규칙불에 리어래 규칙부터서 가서 규칙부 냠도 깨져셔야 또 쪼고리 전 깨져 마셔 가자 근데 코란 레벨 말이 또 돌제 되기도 어떤 용 되기도
You,
변조 요게
uh,
变就有个感觉俺家差不多的一半呢，这个说的这个找不一半呢，给这的些个，这边呢给这马些找不得的，这不是接的，或者包包的多的，这个俺家用到，然后第一件呢，然说是奇怪呢呀，差多的看的有，但有的没有的嘛是吧？用的是牛毛的，可把人家用这个多，牛毛变中国了吧？感觉大家是我都看的价格，牛毛了看的价是吧？是吧？没这个我都去过路中几个是个的。 처바만 뭐 제베 따들라 아니 녀모 슉충도 저거 요래 녀모 슉충도 저거 요 퇴베 따를 녀모 슉충도 충도 저 아니 퇴바 중에 따로 녀모 야게 저거도나 아니 소소 퇴바데 딱다 리거 말에 저거 롭전 제바데 딱다 저거 요 말봐.
So it's kind of like, it's a real danger, isn't it? That those with a little knowledge can suddenly get puffed up and think that they have the inside line on something. They're no more than everybody else. It's sort of an excluding attitude where, I don't associate with myself with those beginners. I've nothing to say to them and so on. It's like rich people who only hang around with other rich people. They don't have time for the poor. Can't have the same conversation, only with those at the same level. Um, and so you can see how, first of all, how insidious mental affliction is on the one hand, but you can see also how revealing that sort of arrogance is as well, because the whole idea of studying the Dharma is that the mental afflictions should diminish and they should be seen to diminish. The sign of learning should be that one is calmer and more virtuous, with no lesser influence of the mental affliction. And so if it's going the opposite way, it's something which is kind of very, very obvious.
아니 나도도 지금 강사 그 최소한 미자데 냠바 주다데스 강사 그 소소그 저 어디 계신 거 어디서 수산계이면 지금 수장주 선바이면写信 말이야 소소 하고 그래 라래 규타데베 가다데 셰촌도예요 말봐 어다 미디 롱차고 시우도스는 나라도 통단 롱차고 소소 나라도 통해도 소소 그 레그 가제 통통한 통으로 와 소소 레그 가 통통한 아니 데데게 좀 전에 전에 자치면 제가 전에 셰식 말아 파저도 산제 인쪽으로 장주 선바 인쪽으로 가는 인쪽으로 셰투고 말와 셰투고 말와 좋아
So at the same time, we must be extremely aware of how limited we are and through our own karmic perception. That, from person to person, what somebody is displaying might not be the actuality. We're only seeing it as such because we're limited by our own karma, our karmic perception. For example, somebody who is, reported as somebody who's very irritable, we can easily make a prejudgment on them even before we've met them, and therefore that will color our interaction with them. And so it's important that we are slow to pass judgment, if no need at all, but that to understand also that we are limited by our karmic perception into how people are appearing. There are bodhisattvas out there, Buddhas out there that are acting, in our view, perhaps strangely, but we don't see it because we don't have that clarity with our perception.
네, 그 소소 레나가 나이로 배는 미치라 미가겐치게 따오네 야고 통보도가 미 마가지 따나 두자 통보도가 아니 가마가 가야 메가 지게 따뇽 통한데도 이나 따서 미치게도 소소 레그나 근데 가제 차도한 디마도 차두고면 도와 차두고면 도와
And so it's been obvious, isn't it? We often have situations where, due to our karmic appearance, we see one person as dislikable, the other person has seen them as likable, the other person sees them as, have an equanimous attitude towards them. Same person, three different attitudes based on our karmic appearance.
어디 차대도 다가는 이제 추법을 가라 미다 송도 하라 뒤지 통거를 밀라네 추 통거를 이다는 나라 통거도 와 소소 레그 나와데 리플렉션 지기도 와 이문도 와
So the world is reflected to us based on what our karmic appearance is. The classic example is of the celestial being seeing a liquid as nectar, the human being seeing it as water, and the hungry spirit seeing it as pus and blood. And that this is same material, but it's seen to be different due to karmic appearance.
어디는 다 그래 다 소소 레사 사와 레 야보 사와라 되네 딜라 되네 디기 용것도 레 녀바 사와라 되네 딜라 되네 동해 용 되기도 레 따뇽 되네 딜라 되네 따뇽 용것도 다 소소 레게 나와제 소차로 것도
And so, we accumulate what is known as good karma, which leads to virtue, leads to, a beneficial result. We accumulate negative karma that results in suffering. And we accumulate, neutral karma that results in a neutral result.
미치기라 때는 미치 셴바치기 디기 용거래 미 셴바치기 밑에 돈을 둥에 용거래 미치긴 따뇨 용거 다 소소 그 대화 용거 되게 레 개와 사와로 둥에 용거들 레 미개와 사는 용거 되게 도와 아니 게메제 가면 따뇨 용거 되게 도와 와다 간자 랑 레게 되고 저 쫓아온 것도
So, we see one person we like it comes naturally. We see another person, and that dislike comes naturally. We see another person, and we have a neutral attitude towards them. Every action in that example is due to the karma that has led to that reaction. So a virtue in the first case leads us to see somebody as likable. A non-virtue sees us as somebody as unlikable. And a neutral karma has seen the other person as in a neutral kind of view. And so we are tied to our own karma that we have accumulated ourselves.
어떤데도 다 어떤데 다 간자 개체슈데 다 녀모의 생활도 만들어지대 녀모의 생활도 만들어지대 개체버도
And so what's most important, therefore, is to not fall under the control of mental affliction.
어떤데도 다 네바 디 니미네서 다 간자 저 어떤다 니미네 다 간자 자와래 녀모가제 개체는 다 간자 다 그것도 녀모가 가제 제반디 님은 녀모가제 기케는 녀종 가제 기치진 디가든 좀 받다 생겼어 세세 전단에 렘바미도 냠종다 탐제도네 녀바 줄샤
The second of these three subheadings is the fault with the afflicted pride. Verses number 57 and the beginning of 58. Inflated by the disturbing conceptions of my self-importance, I shall be led by it to the lower realms. It destroys the joyous festival of being human. I shall become a slave eating the food of others, stupid, ugly, feeble, and everywhere disrespected.
다 간자 그것도 셈 녀모베 가제게네 캥네네 ene 치마 레타디 캥할 때네 체딜레이나야 어느 지가소래다 녀모가 가제데 기바스케 용거 말이 기바 용거 말 다데네 아니 체치마라네 다 동에 용데 치마 아니 녀조 가제기 녀조를 게데 가제기 티도그레스 가제기 체도그레스 게데 녀조를 맞제네 밀레 게바 온도 타와 있나요 아니 소소게 아니 지가소데 밀레 게바 있나요 아니 미기 되게 딱다리 용마도에 게다 된돌을 게바르다 이내야 아니 되게 딱다 용마도에 가든 좀 받대 이미가와 저 sem마지 거두이네 아니 지금 소소그 저 가서 거두이네 sem마지 받자 용대 중국에서 어디에서 아니 다가니세 디가르이네 야디 고베 오게 가게 용대 오다 용거로 왔다 진짜 야 모두는 동아요 주tum대야 가든 이미가 왔다 아니 이 거두이네 sem마지 받자네 대대체 미 야고지 제바이네 야고들 때는야 가서 맞지바 제되게 두고 전한다 맞지바 용이 뭐라 미 야고지 제바이네 야 남도 자만다 자네 아 소소소 남도 자네 야고 제바데 동해 줄을 줘 되게 정도도 아니 세게 세 제도자 미기다 지금 사회 통해 육샤죠 근데 아니 지금 폐마도 근데 장장 산이 되고에 어데 지금 소소소불 폐 야고들 매잖아 어다데 소소 내가 오게 돼 세세 제요다 내가 미기 지금 통중 지세 아니 내가 깔린 가서 구사대 네 셰발레마 아니 셰바디가 지금 가서데 지금 미리 개와 얘네 미기 남주시야 매되게 셰발레마다 거두이네 동해 주장자 두베기 아니 된데게 촐 쪼대지 기회 쪼두에 누가 메게 동해 주두에 누가 쳐보여 되게 셰발레마다 아니 도미도 미기 지금 통중 지사다 된데게 도미도보다 류 냠중한 누가 매되게 어때 냠중하다 뒤다 내가 탄전을 생기 예벌 좋았다 그 뒤에는 지금 생게 다 예주 제사지 예주 제사 아니 소소 내가 온게 생게 예주 맞아봐 이네 소소 예주 제가 나와 차대지 다 예주 제가 가도 예주 제가 제 용구로 봐 얘네 생게 nhập주 맞아봐 이네 소소 내가 온게 nhập주 제대로 통중 제대로 근데 제 나와 차대지 주변나 뇽몽만 가게 방어자 근데 인바 인사 아니 란 대화 되는 동에 미되어 봐 인사 보다 란게 대화를 누구도 근데 뇽몽만 가게도 지지요 말이 수고로 어때
So here saying for somebody who is afflicted, has afflicted pride, is at a disadvantage really in this life because there's very little that will bring them any happiness. And in future lives, it will lead them to the lower realms, as it says here. Then if they even get a human birth in the future, they will be miserable in that life. The habit of pride will come with them, and so they will be stupid. It says here, ugly, and often, as a slave, eating the food of others. They will also have a very poor judgment in that they will, even if they meet with good people, they will be suspicious of those people due to their own kind of karmic appearance and what they have habituated to. And so, and then for bad people, they will be led by the nose by bad people who are more convincing, so they have this terrible naivety, stupidity with them. And they have very little power to engage in virtue, but they are like super powerful when it comes to doing non-virtue. And so they're at a very disadvantageous situation. It says also that they will be disrespected and disparaged by everyone, everywhere. And even if this is not the case, they will perceive it to be the case and through their karmic limitations. So even if somebody is not disparaging them, they will read it wrongly and take offense incredibly easily from what is said.
다 간제 랑 캐들어 좀 믿고 제바 인자 캐들어 좀 믿어 봐 인자 다 간제 가게가 누구도 가게 팽기도 세디암 세랍시 반남소 가게가 누구도 세디암 세랍시 반남라 가게가 팽기도 팽바데 주에 너바데 빵답 제절도 좋아
So then this kind of verse really behoves us to clarify for ourselves that, like, what actions will benefit us in this life and in the future, and what is likely not to benefit us in this life and harm us into the future, and to make a strong kind of editing out of the latter.
어딘데 전다 간제 저 로다 간제 삼루 땅당 간제 지게 다 간제 다도 문제 다 정부시나 사이콜로지라도 삼루 땅당 간제 지게 소소로 팽기도 삼루 땅당 간제 지게 어느 소소로 누구도 로 누구도 다디 아니 디 엔네주 심베 토네 아니 네베 릭데 아니 슉충다 충다 다는 매버소다 펜베리데 슉체다 다는 개바지에치 개바지에치도 호데데 아니 학도도 답 장주 셈베 냠내 지금 제바 임나다 셈제 수라 이바 있네다 구바치부치 세와치부치 아니 디 로다 들어왔다 간제지 대긴 슈반에 시대 가서 마셰 진진 진소 데데게 딜레테나 이원게 잡아 피다고 계죠 지바이나 아니 동에 나올 미스베 닝제 대화데 되게 잡아 피다고요 대중할 때는 학생 피다고요 학생 피다고 딜레테네 다 데데제도 누바도 어디 상에 산제 공반이나 또 산제 공배 연대통 아니 디 두배 쳐다 탑시 가리네 제국도 제국다 다 되네 지금 다 뇽무방아 제스는 조사 매버다 좋아 조사보다 국가 매대가 수주와 때문에 전에 지금 가시님의 그 삐다 보잖아요 냠내 전에 영화이나
So it's really, really in the way we think is, of course, at the heart of it all, isn't it? The psychology that we need to establish, to really refine the question, what is it that benefits? What is it that harms? And to, based on that, to kind of really do everything we can to include and to increase that which will benefit and to reduce and eradicate that which will harm. It's like, when we talk about the cause and effect method for generating the mind of enlightenment, we're putting everything in place, like seeing all sentient beings as one's mother, and then establishing that very clearly, and then establishing the kindness of the mother in all situations, from the very birth to all through life, and then wishing to repay that kindness, that coming very powerfully out of that, and that in turn then leading automatically to the affectionate love that we thereafter see all sentient beings with this sense of really being invested in their welfare, in their well-being. And that then we start to really notice how we can place them in happiness, to give them, what they want in happiness, and to remove the suffering, the compassion that is kind of really finds anything that they suffer as being unbearable to us. And then from that to generate that special intention. I will take personal responsibility for doing this, looking around to seeing what that looks like. It looks like an enlightened being. And then we look into all of the causes that must be put in place to attain that state of enlightenment. Um, um, and when we look at it like that and put it together logically in that sequence, it reaches that point where we have understood what is at stake here and what the goal is, to our perfect satisfaction. We are totally convinced that now I must put everything in place in order to attain enlightenment. Why? Because I have this amazing desire to benefit all sentient beings. So when we have it like that, there should thereafter be no place for mental affliction. We're not giving it the light of day. There is no opportunity for mental affliction to get into that mind state, that mindset.
그래서 숨바데 방르바 네사 자왈레 나제 기게 카투체 대야 나제 젠토나 멤버 진짜 임바
And so the third is how to abandon this particular afflicted pride. And this is dealt with in verse number 58, the remainder of that. Tough people bloated by conceit are also counted among the self-important. Tell me, what is more pathetic than this?
나제 기게 카투체 서바다 뇽몽베 나제게 셈킹네 어느 자유 온도 주바다 자유 온도 저 뇽몽베 셴와도 주바 데다 카투체 나제 징게 나도 똑바이나 디다 가져라 디 지금 가서다 这个娘们那个拿了多把人呢，明白人间见都具备，他人间有都具备，现在是了没写死，他的这个他可就这样，人间的数具备，人间的数具备的，现在是把没写死，他这个人间的数具备了吧，这个后来那个有吧，才的了，真正俺家这个，这个牛毛这俺家的才的了那个有了，才起码他没得呢，东岸就了就这个有吧噻，他南面的这不的，俺这个说的。大家那边个这个的，可是的，严肃来解决。안에 제가 규정 기대 무튼에 되는데 영화 규정 게 안에 라라 동에 나서 봐 용대지 용거도 다 용대가 다 된대게 된대데 닌지게 내수 주바래도 주바대 진짜심 뭐 몇시 제가 오자
And so it's here, it's saying that these hard types, kind of really hardened by their own pride, they are very much under the control of the enemy. This kind of arrogance, this prideful arrogance, is an afflicted state of mind. And so as such, is saying that, what could be more pathetic than this? They are an object of compassion. They have to be, because they are harming themselves. You can see that the ripening effect of living a life like that is going to be a lower rebirth. That they will always then also kind of like have the result that is in harmony with the behavioral cause, which will result in them taking on that kind of prideful attitude again when they're reborn into a new life. That habit will kick in again. And then also the experiential cause, that they will be in situations which will promote a prideful reaction, an arrogance in them again and again in the future. So they're kind of really bound by it into a very unhappy kind of existence, whether they are in the lower realms or not. So they have to be an object of compassion.
我的他那是就把的我这他真的他这个真的有没印象真的有没在对南面都说的对南面的想法都马上完成俺的帮过也差这个有的是我的俺的这些个心间的他过去呢真的是鸟梦是的白中国多鸟梦是的白中国人呢或这个这可能人呢或谷歌的菜有个多谷歌的菜呢对的谷歌的谷歌菜呢的的谷歌的马这我接的全家们解释个了全家们解释个的是吧确实让给대화를 심받지 와 동해를 껴버 지금 제서는 다 동해 용해게 다 지금 교지 량원의 대가 도바이나 가도에 냠내들 최식을 와 어디도
And so it's really saying here that therefore we need to abandon the afflicted pride. And so it's really never giving such pride any opportunity. We must cut off this pride, any kind of feeding of that pride. And that we employ our mindfulness and alertness again in that job of keeping us sharp with regard to that. And that therefore, we must not give opportunity to that mental affliction, and to really keep a mind out, keep an eye out for such mental affliction, and understanding that actual Dharma practice corresponds with not giving mental affliction its opportunity. And as it says even in the etymology of the word Dharma, it's that which protects us from suffering, holds us from suffering. And it does so by teaching us how to recognize and avoid the causes of suffering. And so that's what Dharma practice is.
我知道他的那一般意思我大感觉这个鸟梦呗 녀모 봐서 배 중부여래. 녀모 봐 나라도 지다 찾아하고 그래. 먼저 그 류, 가서 룽아 이송게. 아니 근데 진짜 국업이라기도. 아니 디 컵도 놓고 딱딱딱딱딱딱 그런 게 국업도 센터가 지기도 와. 센터가 지은 거를 딱그 토마 매바는 가라도 길이 여봐 인자 뭐지 차산디 하고 되게 열었다. 하고 되게 진짜 그 국업 생활다. 디 국업디 아니 간톱도 그다. 국업디 가서대 그런 국업디 다 말아야 탑시 제대로 가서 최 제승이 들어도 와. 와다 되듯이 버다. 와들 샤샤가. 데 샤샤.
And so that's, to bear in mind as well that this is not a simple process, that the mental afflictive side of our thinking is incredibly sly, incredibly smart, incredibly intelligent, of really spotting our weak points and really, through our body, speech, and mind, taking advantage of every opportunity to manifest the afflictive side of us. And so, it is backed up by incredible layers of habit that have been built up since beginningless time. It knows our psychology. So it's kind of like that part of us that we must counteract and to not give any opportunity. And this is what is referred to. This is the essence of Dharma practice.
And
We'll leave it.
나랑도 최지구여 삼사제와 이내 최지가 저도는 녀모도 거도 이내 저 국업 섬네 갑도 녀모 상황도 땅답 지기도 와 땅도 지구여 다 지구여 뭐다 네가 동서 지구여 삼상 워터 받잖아 아니 간 둡도 그 아니 슉슉다 다에게 슉슉다 다에게다 배전제의 최제스도 와 어디
And so, yes, that regardless of how kind of conscientious we are about Dharma practice, we have to understand that the mental afflictions are taking and will take advantage in any opportunity and every opportunity, whenever. And so it's kind of like we must kind of recognize this first. That this is the reality of my situation, and then to do everything we can to reduce the frequency and the intensity of these afflictive attacks as they were. This is called Dharma practice. So again, bring our mind, we leave it there for today, and then we bring our minds again to the merit field, which is represented by the Guru Manindra in the space in front.
동해를 맞대버려서 와도 공부시 아니 동해를 맞대버려서 와도 어떤 생 예와죠 연중 공부시 근데 연중 예배 로데 아니 연중 예배 로데 이게 밤지라 교수 밤용수 줘라 빼마 담아 개버저런 게 지고도 내서 삼사 저거들 차
And so then we start to reflect on the suffering within cyclic existence, and the fact of the matter is that unless we gain liberation from cyclic existence, we never gain any release from that suffering. And that brings forth a sense of definite emergence, of renunciation, and that is represented by the syllable, the mandala, the lotus lotus mandala seat at our crown.
지난 저기 근데 저번에 유대는 주바서도 두상 요만에서 코다 주바 공부하셔. 근데 예배 로데 아니 가서래. 근데 예배 로데 아니 가서데 이게 홍요소 주발래 님의 경원냐 거 교수 섬자자 다 근데 라원은 주바 매번 있나 다 때는 주바 레도 왔어. 때는 주바 있나 다 근데 이마다 다 산제 공부하서 문제는 두교 요바지스. 어디는 예배 돈에 와다 섬자 탐제가 돈 산제 공부 주구인 대한 요한이도 주구인 서서 공부하셔. 근데 예별로데 근데 그 dum바디 아니 이게 아직 아용서 다외 경원냐고 교수 섬자자.
And then when we think about how all inner and outer phenomena lack any objective existence, they're merely imputed by thought, and that the the mere negation of that object of negation produces the syllable hung, which then transforms into the sun mandala seat at our crown. The lack of any self-powered entity really points to the fact that phenomena arise in dependence, and this then validates the law of cause and effect, which really validates my aspiration to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. And this mind of enlightenment is represented by the syllable a, which transforms into the moon mandala seat at our crown.
어제 반대 저라 말은 뭐지 다게 지워 빼면 돼 거기 구수도 용어도 저 선대 저 담비 가서 배 니베 가서 쇼 수배 가서 땡도 쇼나 산제 고마도 비자서 다 야고 시고 중수 선가고 근데 야라도 뭐 멘데데 저 어든지
And so then we utter the invocation verse for the Guru Manindra to come to our pre-prepared seat on the crown. O glorious and precious root Guru, come take your lotus and moon seat placed here on my head. Keep me safe in your kindness, bestow on me the attainments of body, speech, and mind. At the end of the first recitation, the figure moves from the space in front, and then at the end of the second recitation, it reaches our pre-prepared seat on the crown. And at the end of the third, we realize that the Buddha will remain until we attain a state of enlightenment. This produces a sense of real joy in us. This is really great. And then we make the offerings of the mandala and the 7 limbs of practice.
양조 년조 공부시 저서 감성 좋아지도 가와 겨와이네 다 문에다 내가 지금 대화 천지 차와지 다 자년은 민도 매바되는 게 반니바 채널로다 교회 동에 잠질라 안에 대화 모였지네 뭐다든데 저 저되기도 와 저되기도 왔다들 대야 용했다 대야다 디방월에 잡아 두지 그 동에도 멋진 것도 와 잡아 두지 그 동에 쓴데 뭐 저한테 다디 마방 봐도 아니 동에 봐야면 되는데 용해야 돼 다까지 다른 용어서 뭐저 코아바 인상 용어다 코아대 다음에 또 베시라고 코아대 다 가서 단지 머리에 코에서 디니 뭐 다음에 또 베시라 뭐 다음에 그 용어 되고 하다 코아를 녀봐 좀严重 되는데 공부시원도 다 간제 지금 되는 공부시에는 아니 녀 되는严重 녀별로데 다 간제 지금 이게 밤 요소 이게 우라다 녀존데 랑이 셈데 이게 밤질라 교수 섬체 밤 용소 교발레 아니 밤마다마 교발치라 교수 섬사자 아니 지나가 초 근데 유단 좀 두상 요마서 코다 줘 공부하시는 근데 녀별로데 아니 이게 홍용소 교발레 아니 가서 님의 정보냐고 교수 스트레스 다 근데 이번 인자 다 간제 어떤 산재 공부하서도 두주보다 될 때는 예반 예전 다 심지 탐정 산재 공부 요원이도 맞아 지금 두고 지금 있어 공부하시 아니 근데 예별로데 이게 아직 아용서 다의 정보냐고 하지 님의 정보 내서 섬세되는 반대 저라 말은 뭐지 다 인가 빼면다 가지고 구수도 정보도 저도 선대자 담배 가서 패 예배 가서 수배 가서 때도 저 산재 공부 맞아 보다 제 소소 공부하시
And then we begin the process of preparing a similar seating arrangement at our own heart center, and thereby reflecting on the concept of renunciation again, how in a cyclic existence, there is no fully qualified happiness on offer, that it invariably, transforms into suffering. And we are particularly shackled by pervasive suffering, until we get beyond the pervasive suffering, we are going to be prone to the suffering and the suffering of change. And there again will be no genuine happiness to be had. And so we must really gain release from cyclic existence itself, and that this intense desire to gain liberation from cyclic existences is symbolized by the syllable BAM, and this transforms at our heart center into the lotus mandala seat. And then reflecting on how all inner and outer phenomena lack any objective existence, and they're merely imputed by thought. And this lack of any objective existence, it's kind of like something that then resting in that sort of understanding of there being no the mere absence of the object of negation produces the syllable hung, which at our heart center transforms into the sun mandala seed. And then through that understanding, we gain the knowledge that because phenomena lack any objective existence, therefore they must arise in dependence. And this validating the law of cause and effect, and we gain, real conviction in the possibility that there is a system of causes that can be accumulated in order to manifest the result of enlightenment. And so our aspiration to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings is ratified. And we have this renewed sense of deep conviction in the possibility. And that is symbolized by the syllable A, which transforms into the moon mandala seat at our heart center. Once again, we make the invocation verse for the Guru Manindra to take this pre-prepared seat at the end of the first recitation of "O precious and holy Guru, come take your lotus and moon seat, place there at my heart. Keep me safe in your kindness, bestow on me the attainments of body, speech, and mind." The figure moves down through the crown chakra in through the central channel, and then at the end of the second arrives at the pre-prepared seat at our heart. And again at the third, we have this certainty that the Buddha will remain until we attain enlightenment ourselves, and we again rejoice in that probability.
Lama tuwa ombo shu, dawa terja wata, tendu shu sanje kumanda chesu kawa kwa, an tena ning pema tabje namju ning dada ti ita tochi kawa tsanga wa ka chenche, ti tawa tumbe tsanga taa ita omoni moni maamu sa riba sungkwa, tena jizu jambaya nga sunga oma arapa zana ti riba sungkwa, tena tende ka sunga oma ye tama he tama shama na ye suwa ti kwa tena rangi ning yusa lama tuwa ombo neba ti, anu kusung to le wese tuna rangi chibo ne kanti ka pala lu tanje wese ka chaba. 롱게 루게 두테르네 베세게 찹잖아. 저는 디 찹발라 때는 토마 메반서 디바 저 켜봐도야 다 소죠. 맞아 미사 주연 좀 나선데서 나젤라 소바다 나선네세 로탈라 소바다 간제 미게 주보다 다 같이 제가 하나마다 라세 하나마다 세대 생각만 띵거 토마 봐서 다다 디바다 디바가 마다 다가는 저 소다가 돈바다 거 장주스면 라와다 거 상하게 단세다 거 파다말라 마구바다 제보다 로벨라 마구바다 조사바조마다 구조스면 레벨로 담배 쉬죠 밥에 준대로 구하는 심전한 레벨 내죠 도나 토리다 답에 계속 줘 얘도 소치저 마타자 장시 다도선다 다가는 시게 자롱 틸레기 교연 가리는 바자 다같이 중심 코만 옆에 다 자롱 틸레기 교연 가리는 마탄 아니 학도도 뉴도 산제 공부 토발에 교연 치시다 탐에게 나셔이 뭐자 탐에게 나셔이 교연 던져 가나선제 다바름 저 바시 차도와 야고 쉬우 중수 선도고.
So then the petals of the lotus fold over and they're sealed at their tips by a white five-pronged vajra, and the petals then are surrounded by three mantras: the name mantra of Shakyamuni Buddha in a clockwise direction, the mantra of Manjushri in an anti-clockwise direction, and the mantra of dependence arising in a clockwise direction. From that, then, the light rays begin to emanate from the Guru Manindra inside, permeating through every cell of our bodies, even at the atomical level, and that purifying all the negativities that we have accumulated since beginningless time, purifying any negativities associated with the body, such as stealing, sexual misconduct and killing, the negativities associated with speech being lying, harsh speech, divisive speech, and idle gossip, And then the negativity is associated with the mind being a covetousness and malicious intent and wrong view. All the naturally occurring negativities, all those actions prescribed by the Buddha, be it in this life that we have engaged in, or the previous life, or the previous life, so that going right back to beginningless time, and they are all purified. Likewise, all purified of the downfalls and infractions that we have accrued related to the Pratimoksha vows, or the Bodhisattva vows, or the Tantric vows. All disrespect we have shown to our parents, up to our gurus, any incidents of abandoning the Dharma, of splitting of the Sangha, etc., etc. All of the imbalances of the elements of the body, or the channels, winds and drops, they are now harmonized and put back into balance. And in particular, that which really prevents us from proceeding quickly to enlightenment, namely ordinary appearance, is dropped for a pure appearance.
那所谓新的这个弄的你那么下家生过的很久经跟前的所谓绿的那么下家生过了就做上所谓新的这个新的你来讲那么下家生个土的很久经跟前所谓新的那么下家生个土了就做甚至然后另外的那么下家生故中东我也没就说第一点话的第二东话的第二你什么一些结束甚至然后那三个内的那个健康的那么下家生个大外新的就说然后那么下家生的故中东我也没就那了些没什么当第一图个来那么下家生个八都没我准的那么下家生个人呢三节甚至人了说了的呢甚至大家那么下家生个故中东我也没就说甚至对大个那三个内的那个健康的那么下家生个大外新的就说甚至我打甚至他们家三节个杀了过是你们的人过都说搞我打也会喜欢种子的那甚至他们家三节个杀了过吧第一节都是给我看着中国所说的这个语言这个都上要么是扩大出来恐怕是第一电话这电话都会电话你什么一些结束甚至恐怕是
Then to the combination of my own most subtle wind acting as the substantial cause, together with the Buddha's body acting as the cooperative conditions, my own body is transformed into the enlightened body of a Buddha. And through the combination of my own most subtle mind or consciousness acting as the substantial cause, together with the mind of the Buddha acting as the cooperative conditions, my own mind is now transformed into the enlightened mind of a Buddha. Now I see my body, speech, and mind as indivisible from the body, speech, and mind of an enlightened being. This brings forth a sense of bliss which combines with voidness, and I abide in the wisdom of non-dual bliss and voidness. And the place that I am in also is transformed of all contamination and fault and becomes a pure realm. Then seeing myself as a fully enlightened being, also seeing myself as lacking any inherent existence whatsoever, I send out countless rays of light equal in number to all of the sentient beings in all the realms of existence. And these rays of light then dissolve into all of these sentient beings, and they spontaneously arise as fully enlightened Buddhas. The places that they are in, again, are purified of all fault, and they become also pure realms. I pause here to rejoice and say, wonderful, today is the day I've been able to lead all these sentient beings to that state of enlightenment, fulfilling my goal. I do realize that this leading of all sentient beings to the state of enlightenment, the virtue that has facilitated this, and myself as the agent of that virtue, all lack any objective existence and are merely imputed by thought. This brings forth again a sense of bliss, which combines with voidness, and I again abide in the wisdom of non-dual bliss and voidness.
我来说，我感觉我的恐怕是，我大感觉这个，大的没把以前我家可能等待他来了我去买吧，以那样，大三六当完了，以前人物嘛多吧，真的是用一个呢，给我说是，那第一切都大说是三节恐怕都不多， 산제 살아 고토가 용할 소소 산제가 송 공부토가 자주가 돈이 되게 싫어 냠내 지고도 다 되네 인바 인자 다 소소 지금 가서 대도 다좀 컨디션을 깨가 제 컨디 중간에 다 간제 두고다 동네다 컨디 중간 인바 있나야 디 아니 깨잖아 자주가 돈이 되게 싫어 깨 튕겨를 교도가 지금 삼사 지금 다 제도가 쇼 제도가 라말에 징글랍도 소어들의 공부하시네 뭐다 간투도 그 제투벨라 아니 뭐하지 배준체 어들의 공부하시
And of course, we're operating here at the level of imagination and aspiration. There's no way that this can become a reality just like that. But what we are doing is sowing a seed. We really are, in our dedication, absolutely sincere, dedicating all the virtue here to be able to quickly make this manifest in the future as a reality. And that it's down to our thinking, and to understand that the attainment of enlightenment is predicated upon generating the mind of enlightenment and the wisdom of selflessness or emptiness. And therefore, in every moment of my life, regardless of what the situation is, whether it's an incident of happiness or sadness or something neutral, it doesn't matter. I automatically would click in to see this as an opportunity, a conducive condition for the application of what I understand of the mind of enlightenment and the wisdom of selflessness, and I pledge to make every effort to make this happen. Guru, and then the Guru, please bless me to this.
Lai ma san ye zhu wa che ya ma liu pa ye sa lai gu pa rai zhu jan zhen zhen liang bo ma ye pa na ma ye yu roi che ye pa nyam pa me pa yang o ne gong du ya wa ra shu sa ne ra we pa we
shin kam de pandang de
wa mo le zhong we ne che le ten ten ja so yi sha pe de ba do ten ju roi che me ze we Pe
Avalokiteshvara, great treasure of compassion, not aimed at true existence, and Manjushri, master of flawless wisdom, as well as Vajrapani, destroyer of hordes of demons without exception. Tsongkhapa, crown jewel of the sages of the land of snows, Losang Drakpa, at your feet I make requests.
That's right. Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Thank you, Noel.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.